thank you for welcoming me, actually, because I'm not here to talk about digital at all. And when Alice came to me and said, could you be a speaker? I said, yeah, sure, but on the digital, it's going to be not an easy one, because Courrèges is a startup. It started in 61, and today, when we took over, we had to buy our first computer. So talking about digital is another story. But she said, well, maybe you can talk about entrepreneurship. And this is something maybe where we can exchange a little bit. So I'm going to take a few minutes talking about the story of Courrèges and the story of Frederic and I, because my partner, who is not here today, my other part of the brain, and my friend for 30 years, we've been partnering for 30 years, is not here today. So I'm going to talk to you also about the meeting with the Courrèges and how we came into this entrepreneurial story. But actually, I'm here more or less to sell dresses, to be honest. So, and how many people know about Courrèges? Can you just raise your hand? That's great news. And I'm going to try also to wake those guys on the coach as well, hopefully. No, basically, we didn't choose Courrèges. Courrèges chose us. Long story short, and you'll see behind me some images of Courrèges for those who don't know, and some images that will remind you some stories about your mother, your brothers, and some emotional stories about the brand. Basically, we were advertisers, awful advertisers. Chairman Frederic and I of Young Rubicam group in France. And we had decided, because our entrepreneurial story started 30 years ago when we were doing our MBA, and we had a company. We started up our company. We sold it to Y&R. It was a communication company, and we became chairman of Y&R. And we told our great chairman, Mr. Sorel, we will be here only for 5 years. And in 5 years, we will leave whatsoever to go back to entrepreneurial, because to have an English stakeholders is not an easy job every day. So basically, we had decided that we would go back to buying a company. And we wrote an article, it was the crisis in 2008-9, in Madame Figaro, French magazine, and we wrote an editorial about brands. And at that time, remember, basically, Naomi Klein was saying brands are old, no logo, brands are dead, and we were saying that's bullshit. In fact, brands are stronger than ever, and the consumer, especially in our digital world, will need the trust and the emotion coming from the brands. And we said, look at the brand that can revive if they are properly respected, and if the famous DNA, I hate this word, but it helps, is respected. And we were not talking about Courrèges, obviously, but Madame Courrèges, the wife of André Courrèges, who had been his creative complementarity for 50 years, read this article and called us and said, I'd like to meet you guys. So I say, well, once again, an old lady that is bored and maybe wants to, to meet some young people, you don't know. And I say, well, but why not? Being advertisers, you have to go to a potential client. And we went to what is today our office on Rue François Ier. There is a store downstairs for those who want to buy Courrèges dresses on 40 Rue François Ier. And I arrived in what is today my office, and I encounter this lady, 76 years old, fantastic lady. Amazing of vivacity, of youth, of dynamism, vision. And she's asking me, did you write this? I said, yes, it happened that we wrote it. And we spent 4 hours of discussion just to talk about what encounters can bring. And the friendship was woven little by little. She told us about the story of Courrèges, and I will come back to it. And she basically had put the company for sale at Rothschild, and obviously everyone wanted to buy it at that time. And she said, I'd rather close it with André. André is 91 years old today. And I'd rather close it rather than sell it to anyone. In our world, it's probably quite amazing. And little by little, we got along, but we realized that we couldn't buy the company because it was a lot of money. And one day they came to us and they said, well, we chose you. We decided that it would be you that would buy the company. And we say, well, We don't know anything about fashion. We know about luxury. We did the advertising for 1 million. We had some clients in the luxury business, but we didn't know about the fashion industry. Plus, we don't have that money. And she said, well, about fashion, you know better than I, because we've been discussing it, that Courrèges is more than fashion. It's a style, it's a brand, and you know about brands. As far as money is concerned, maybe I was wrong about you guys, but I'm sure you will find the money. And talking about encounters of young entrepreneurs and being at the right place at the right time, young, not so young anymore, we found finally a banker that could trust us because we didn't want any fund to really back us up because we didn't want to be under the financial pressure of a 3-year plan. And we were able to borrow money from a banker, and because of the leverage we did on the building of the Rue François 1er, where there is a store where you can buy the famous Courrèges dress. And we decided we would jump in. So we resigned from Y&R. Mr. Sorel was not that happy at that time. And we decided to jump in the cold water of the fashion and so-called luxury industry. And September 11, we were able to become the president of Courrèges. And that's where we joined the idea of meeting a great history, because Courrèges was probably, and we discovered it little by little, but it's probably the last revolution of the fashion industry. Before, luxury was called luxury. And at once, obviously, we were starting from scratch. There was only one store left, the one on Rue François 1er that you know now. There was some licenses in Japan and nothing else. Coqueline Courrèges had called all the stores, wholesale, retail, to say, we won't sell you anymore, because she would rather keep the brand pure rather than to have it widespread. And actually, as you probably are aware of, for those who like fashion, Courrèges has inspired a lot of designers, and still is inspiring in a world where, because of the digital, but not only, inspiration, it's quite often imitation. So we decided to take it over. The first step was to really put the company back to work, because it has been closed for close to 10 years. So the whole idea was to use our creative team and to rebuild the creative team, and we were lucky enough to find a fantastic creative team, as well as our factory in Pau, the one you might have seen on the pictures over there. And the whole idea was to reset the supply chain. In parallel, because we didn't have that much money and we needed to speed up the pace of the recovery, we built an e-commerce site with our friend of Vente Privée. I don't know if you're familiar with Vente Privée. Probably are. And so they built us the software of our website. And at once, the website, because of the recovery, because there were so many people in France who couldn't buy anymore Courrèges, be it the perfume or be it the dresses, the website took off a little bit. Then, in parallel, we decided to relaunch the perfume, because the perfume in our business model were very important, and as well to reconnect little by little through digital, through the social media, but not only, with our communities. Because the great thing about Courrèges is that it's an emotional brand, like few brands are. And André Courrèges used to say that Courrèges is more than fashion, because fashion is trend, and style is what perpetuates through the times. And this is what Courrèges is about. It's about style. So basically, the funny thing and the interesting thing about this brand was the connection with its community, with one's community. So through the digital media, Instagram, Facebook, and amazingly, social media that are usually targeted to young people, we were able to connect with the current communities, the 50 and 60 years old women from all over France, and we were able to say, oh, well, we learned, we read that you had taken over the company, where can I buy it? And through the website, little by little, we were able to reconnect with the existing community. And then our challenge was to say, yes, but some young people don't know the brand, because our main target were the 40 and over. And so little by little, changing also the product and making sure that product could evolve and doing some communication operation like La Reboot, for instance, where we were able to give access to a new crowd. We also were able to work, I would say, a storytelling, an every week storytelling basis to reconnect with, let's say, the 25 to 30 years old, 35 years old ladies. Because the great thing about this brand is that it's very universal. It can be worn by my daughter who is 18, and it can be worn by my mother who is not 18. And it's obviously not easy to do in terms of pure retail when you don't have that many stores. So that's where the digital leverage helped us reconnect with the community and also reconnect with the real business. So that was for France, and little by little, the communication went on. And from that base, we were able to reconquer, it's a big word, but to really reconnect with the community in the States. Because people have forgotten it, but in the 70s, Courrèges was bigger than Chanel and Dior together, before the luxury train that we know, the Bernard Arnault, the Kering's, and the Chanel. And it was bigger because André Courrèges was an engineer and had thought, and it's very interesting in the DNA of the brand, had thought couture, had thought his fashion business as an industry. Today we are going back to craftsmanship, from industrial approach to craftsmanship. He did the contrary in the 60s. He was the first one to have a factory, an industrial approach of ready-to-wear. He was the first one to take his product from haute couture to ready-to-wear and to open up a factory to be able to really sell his product throughout the world. And so, to end up on this, the company, the brand, and the product is really a digital product, a digital company. It has a potential, a fantastic potential. We are still at the beginning because, as you know, it's only 2.5 years. But it's very interesting to see how, let's say, an old brand, but that is still very modern and completely untemporal, can rebound and be rebooted and jump on the current technologies and the current digital opportunities to really reinvent one's model. And we strongly believe that the digital world for us will be, I mean, the multi-channel, but digital world will help us probably at one point in 5 years from now, what we call click on mortar, rather than click and mortar, we'll be able to probably represent at least 30% of our business. And definitely will be probably 80% of our investment in communication. So thank you. I had a few minutes, but